It's 6:15 a.m. I'm standing on my family's 40-acre farm in Montana, steam rising from my coffee mug, watching the sun paint the mountains gold. My phone buzzes. This is 911 dispatch. We have a report that you're trespassing on private property and need to vacate immediately. I actually laughed out loud. I mean, what would you do if someone called the cops on you for standing on land your family's owned for 80 years? I pulled out my leather badge wallet. Ma'am, tell whoever called that Deputy Sheriff Ezra Blackwood is exactly where he needs to be. Through my neighbor's McMansion window, I could see Karen Pemberton's face go white as fresh snow. She still had those expensive binoculars pressed to her eyes like some kind of suburban spy. What would you do in my situation? My name is Ezra Blackwood. I'm 45, and after 15 years as a deputy sheriff and a messy divorce last spring, I moved back to the family farm I inherited from my grandfather. 40 acres of pure Montana beauty that's been in our family since 1943 when Grandpa Jeremiah bought it with his GI Bill money after the war. The old barn still smells like machine oil and decades of honest work. The kind of place where I learned to fix tractors at 8 years old and thought I'd grow old in peace. Then they built Willowbrook Estates right next to my property line 5 years ago. 47 McMansions with matching mailboxes and seasonal decorative flags. Most residents were actually great neighbors who loved buying fresh produce from my little farm stand and watching their kids feed Buttercup, my goat. Yes, I named her Buttercup. Don't judge me. But then there was Karen Pemberton, 52 years old with bottle blonde hair that cost more monthly than most car payments, a PhD in art history she mentioned every 5 minutes, and the attitude of someone who confused studying Renaissance paintings with graduating Harvard Law. Her husband Braden owned Pemberton Construction, the company that built Willowbrook, and they lived in the biggest house with a lawn so perfect it probably got more water than my entire vegetable garden. The trouble started on a Tuesday morning in June when I heard the click-click-click of expensive heels on gravel. Karen marched across my property line carrying a manila folder thick as a phone book. "Mr. Blackwood, I'm here on official HOA business." I wiped my hands on my jeans. "Ma'am, I don't believe I'm part of your HO." Her laugh sounded like a car trying to start in winter. "Oh, but you are now. When Willowbrook Estates was incorporated, your property was grandfathered into our covenants." She thrust a certified letter at me like a court summons. "You have 30 days to bring this agricultural situation into compliance. Remove the barn, tear down the chicken coop, eliminate the vegetable stand, and relocate all unsightly farm equipment. The kicker? $500 a day in fines if I didn't comply." Karen didn't waste any time escalating. 3 days after delivering her ultimatum, she filed a formal complaint with the county zoning board claiming my farm created a public health hazard due to animal waste and attracted rodents. She organized a petition among Willowbrook residents and managed to get 12 signatures out of 47 homes. Not exactly a groundswell of support, but she posted those signatures on the neighborhood Facebook group like she'd won a landslide election. But here's where Karen made her first big mistake. She never actually read the HOA's original incorporation documents. See, 15 years in law enforcement teaches you that most people assume someone else did their homework. So I drove down to the county courthouse and requested every single document related to Willowbrook Estates formation. That's when I found it. Buried in subsection 12C of the original incorporation agreement, existing agricultural operations shall be permanently exempt from all aesthetic and operational restrictions. Permanently exempt. Those two beautiful words meant Karen's entire legal case was built on quicksand. I decided to call her bluff about public health hazards by requesting an inspection from the county health department myself. The inspector walked every inch of my property, tested soil samples, examined the chicken coop with a magnifying glass. When she finished, Janet actually laughed. "Mr. Blackwood, this operation exceeds organic certification standards. I've seen million-dollar operations that aren't this clean." While I was building my legal defense, something interesting happened. Karen's husband Braden quietly approached me one evening. "Ezra, what would it take for you to sell this place? I'm talking 40% above market value. Cash deal." 40% above market value for a property that was supposedly dragging down everyone's home prices? That seemed awfully generous. Something I'd learned during detective training. When people's actions don't match their stated motivations, follow the money. My law enforcement training kicked in full force. Every interaction with Karen got documented. Every conversation recorded, Montana being a one-party consent state. Every piece of correspondence got filed and copied. Karen's response to losing community support was predictable. She got louder and more desperate. She started posting daily updates on social media about the ongoing agricultural crisis in Willowbrook. But something beautiful was happening too. The families who'd withdrawn support started shopping at my farm stand regularly, bringing friends and neighbors. Word was spreading that there was this local farm where you could get the best tomatoes in the county while supporting a deputy sheriff who wasn't backing down from a bully. 3 months into this nightmare, I made the discovery that changed everything. I was researching HOA precedents when something nagged at me. Why hadn't Karen's lawyer produced the actual incorporation documents during their lawsuit? So I decided to pull Willowbrook Estates' complete filing history myself. What I found made my hands shake. Karen Pemberton had never legally established the HOA. Not even close. The manila envelope should have contained incorporation papers filed with the Secretary of State, registration numbers, mandatory insurance bonds. Instead, I found a handful of neighborhood meeting minutes and a photocopied template downloaded from some website. For 5 years, Karen had been collecting dues and imposing fines through what amounted to a book club with delusions of authority. But the real bombshell came when I subpoenaed the financial records through the DA's office. Every penny of collected HOA money, over $300,000, was sitting in a personal checking account labeled K. Pemberton Administrator. No separate business entity, no board oversight, no audit procedures. Just Karen's private bank account funded by her neighbor's monthly payments. The bank statements read like evidence in a fraud case. Luxury vacation to Europe charged as HOA conference. BMW payments filed under administrative costs. Pool renovation billed as community improvement project. Karen had been using HOA money as her personal credit card for half a decade, confident nobody would ever question her authority long enough to discover she didn't have any. Every single Willowbrook resident could demand full restitution because they'd been victims of an elaborate financial scam. Every fine Karen had collected was fraudulent. She'd been running a neighborhood protection racket and calling it community management. Karen's world was collapsing and desperate people do desperate things. With most Willowbrook residents refusing to pay dues and her authority crumbling, she decided to take direct action. The escalation started with sabotage attempts. My security cameras caught Karen at 2:30 a.m. dressed in dark clothing, trying to damage my irrigation system with a crowbar she clearly didn't know how to use. The real escalation came with false police reports. Karen started calling 911 claiming she'd witnessed drug dealing from my farm stand, describing normal vegetable sales as suspicious package exchanges. These false reports triggered a DEA investigation. When federal agents showed up expecting a drug operation and found an off-duty deputy growing tomatoes, they were not amused. Deputy Blackwood, this isn't neighbor harassment anymore. This is systematic obstruction of justice, and we're adding federal charges. Karen's desperation peaked when she tried to bribe County Building Inspector Bob Martinez $2,000 to condemn my barn as structurally unsafe. Bob immediately reported the attempted bribery. She wanted me to fabricate violations. That's not just corruption, that's asking me to risk lives for her personal vendetta. Karen's social media presence became real-time documentation of psychological collapse. Her posts grew increasingly paranoid, describing my peaceful farm as a criminal operation. She shared blurry photos taken from her bathroom window, trying to make routine farm work look sinister. The Willowbrook Community Center buzzed with nervous energy as residents filed in for Karen's emergency mandatory meeting. She'd threatened legal action against anyone who didn't attend her final presentation of evidence against my criminal agricultural operation. I slipped in wearing full uniform and took a seat in the back, badge catching the fluorescent lights. Karen spotted me and her eyes flashed with what she thought was victory. For 20 excruciating minutes, Karen presented her evidence. She displayed blurry photographs of families buying tomatoes, claiming they showed drug transactions. She played audio recordings of normal farmstand conversations, insisting they contained criminal communications in agricultural code language. But here's the smoking gun, Karen declared, pointing directly at me. Deputy Ezra Blackwood has been using his law enforcement position to protect his criminal enterprise. I call upon this community to make a citizen's arrest. The room fell silent. No one moved. That's when I stood up and walked slowly to the front. Good evening, everyone. I'm Deputy Sheriff Ezra Blackwood, and I believe Miss Pemberton has been expecting me. Karen's expression shifted from triumph to confusion. Miss Pemberton, you've just provided an excellent demonstration of why you're under arrest for embezzlement, fraud, filing false police reports, and operating an illegal organization. I pulled out the arrest warrant. Karen Pemberton, you have the right to remain silent. The room erupted as handcuffs appeared in my hands. This is impossible. Karen screamed. I'm the victim here. I have legal authority. Actually, ma'am, you never had any legal authority. Your HOA was never legally incorporated. Every fee you collected, every fine you imposed was fraudulent. Detective Riley from the State Fraud Division stepped forward. Mrs. Pemberton, you're also under federal arrest for wire fraud, mail fraud, and tax evasion totaling over $300,000 stolen from your neighbors. Karen's breakdown was complete. She screamed about conspiracies while her own videographer captured every moment. The crowd's reaction was swift and cathartic. Spontaneous applause broke out. Ladies and gentlemen, Detective Riley addressed the stunned residents, you've all been victims of systematic fraud. Every dollar you paid in HOA dues went into Miss Pemberton's personal bank account. You're entitled to full restitution plus damages. The taste of justice was sweeter than my grandmother's apple pie as Karen was led away in handcuffs. 6 months later, justice tasted even sweeter. Karen Pemberton received 3 years in federal prison, $400,000 in restitution payments, and 500 hours of community service, specifically working on organic farms. The judge's poetic justice wasn't lost on anyone. The Willowbrook residents recovered an average of $8,000 each in stolen fees. The community formed a legitimate HOA with proper incorporation, transparent finances, and by unanimous vote, a permanent bylaw protecting agricultural operations. My farm evolved into something I'd never dreamed possible. What started as a quiet place to heal became a thriving community hub. The farm stand expanded into a cooperative featuring products from neighboring operations. The annual Blackwood Harvest Festival became the county's biggest event, attracting thousands of visitors and raising $25,000 for agricultural scholarships. Personal happiness found me too. Dr. Sarah Martinez, the veterinarian who started visiting during the harassment campaign, became my partner. We're planning a wedding next spring right here among the apple trees that Karen once wanted destroyed. The legal precedent from our case revolutionized property rights across Montana. The legislature passed the Rural Property Protection Act, requiring HOA transparency and agricultural exemptions. 3 other states adopted similar laws. But the most beautiful transformation happened in Willowbrook itself. Without Karen's manufactured drama, neighbors discovered they actually enjoyed each other's company. Property values increased as the community became known for cooperation rather than conflict. Today, as I write this with Buttercup grazing in evening sunlight, I'm grateful for every minute of Karen's harassment campaign. Her attempts to destroy my peace gave me exactly the life I never knew I wanted. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's building something beautiful that helps your whole community flourish. Now I want to hear from you. What's your HOA horror story? Drop a comment below.